And dua is one of the strongest things. Dua is one of the strongest weapons of a Muslim. We must understand that. Again, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that dua is ibadah. So even making dua, calling out, supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a part of worship. We should also understand that to supplicate or to call out to somebody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worship as well. This could be tantamount to shirk. This could be tantamount to taking somebody out of the realm of Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that dua is ibadah. Inshallah, the emphasis of today's dhikr, inshallah, again, a'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim, is the importance of dua. The importance of dua, the importance of supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, and when they ask you concerning me, say that I am near, I am qareeb. When you ask about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they ask you concerning me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say that I am qareeb. I am the one that answers, the one that calls out to me. Another name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is also very important, when all of the prophets of old, whenever they had situations, whenever they were going through trials and tribulations, they would call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Yusuf alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam. Whenever they were going through certain trials and tribulations, they would call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All the prophets of old, they would call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that Allah is Sami'at Du'a. Sami'at Du'a. He is the hearer of the dua. Whenever we call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the hearer of dua. If we need something, we ask Him. If we want something, we ask Him. When we want to request something, we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Sami'at Du'a. This is the name, or one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the hearer of dua. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when they ask you concerning me, let them know that I am qareeb, I'm near. We should never doubt the dua that we make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ever responded to the dua. One of the things that we must understand with regards to making our dua, right? Because we want our dua accepted. We want to turn to Allah and ask Him for certain things. But there's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regards to a man where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying there was a man who was making a dua. He's making a beautiful dua. He's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for certain things, but yet his food is haram, right? His money is haram, or his clothing is haram. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't listen to his dua. Allah doesn't answer his dua. So when we're making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we want certain things, we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with certain things, we have to, inshallah, first look into ourselves and make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we're not in disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're not doing things that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have another hadith with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if the people are around certain situations and they do not enjoin the right or forbidden the wrong, or we're just around, there's a bunch of haram going on, there's a bunch of things that are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we sit around these things that we don't enjoin the right or forbid the wrong, Allah said, like through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Bani Israel, like the Jews of old, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not, Allah will sit down a bala, a trial or a tribulation to the people, as well as He will not answer their du'as. So we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer our du'as. We want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us whatever it is that we're asking Him, which He says He will. See, submit a du'a, but there's a prerequisite with regards to our du'as. Number one, we got to make sure our food is halal. We got to make sure our money is halal. We got to make sure our clothing is halal. Everything that we're wearing that is conducive to whatever the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another thing with regards to having our dua answered, we have to make sure that we're enjoining the right and forbidding the wrong, right, to the best of our ability. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if we see something wrong, we first change it with our hands. If we don't have the ability to do that, then at least we speak against it. If we don't speak against it, then at least we hate it in our hearts. And that's the weakest of faith. So even with regards to enjoining the right or forbidding the wrong, You still have to have it in your heart. If you don't have the strength to change it with your hands, you don't have the strength to speak about it, right? You feel that you may be weak, at least hate it in your heart. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Again, with regards to the dua, when is the best time to make dua? There's many times that we have examples through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when to make dua. For instance, the time between the adhan and the iqamah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this is a good time to make dua. Another time to make dua after the salah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Another time to make dua is at the time of tahajjud, the last third of the night, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah says, who is it that wishes to ask of me? Who is it that needs of me? Who wants to ask forgiveness of me? And I will answer their dua. Another time to ask for dua, or another special time to ask for dua is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said on Fridays. There's a specific hour, there's a special time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer the dua, a special time that you increase in the sali of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said this is the time between Asr and Maghrib. There's a special hour. Yeah, we're supposed to make dua, or we should make dua. Another time to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer our dua is when we're fasting. At the time of fasting, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the dua of a fasting person is heard. Another time to make dua is when we're traveling, right? The person that's traveling, his dua is ever heard as well. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Another good time to make dua is when we're breaking the fast, right? So before we take the iftar, before we break the fast, before we eat, we should make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to whatever it is that we wish to ask for, and so that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer our dua. And we also know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, beware of the dua of the oppressed. Beware of the dua of the oppressed. When someone is going through trials and tribulations, like our Muslim brothers and sisters all over the world, they're being oppressed, they're being bombarded, they're being ostracized, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, beware of the dua of the oppressed, right? Allah is quick to answer the dua of the oppressed. And another good time to make the dua, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the dua is ever heard, is in the time of sajda. So when you're in the prostration position, when your face is to the ground, right, in your most humblest state, when you're in the salah, whether it's in the salah or outside the salah, right, we put our face to the ground, we are in the sajda position. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that this is when we're closest to Allah. This is the closest that you're to Allah. You're in the most humblest state. And in this humble state, you cry out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask him for whatever it is that you need, or whatever it is that you desire. And inshallah, this is a time when your dua is ever heard. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. What are the best du'as? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the best du'as are the du'as of the Quran. Whatever du'as we find in the Quran, right, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has voiced, right, we hear, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. These are the best of du'as, right, the best du'as of the Quran. Whatever du'a that we find in the Quran, these are the best du'as. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, after that, the other best du'as are the du'as of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we find in the hadith that there's certain du'as that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, like leaving the house. What do we say when we leave the house? Bismillah, tawakkatu ala Allah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right? What do we say when we go into the bathroom? Right? Oh Allah, we see representing jinn, the male and female jinn. Whatever du'a that we learn, ya muqallibul qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik, right? Ya hayyum ya qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith. Whatever dua that we learn from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is also the best of duas. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, any duas of the other prophets, right? Any other prophets other than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the dua of Musa alayhi salam, Dua of Isa alayhi salam that we find in the hadiths. These are also the best du'as, as well as whatever du'a that we may make. You know, a du'a should be something that's sincere. A du'a is something that should come from your heart. A du'a should be something that you really need, you know. And when you make the du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if you're making a tahajjud prayer or you're doing it in a sajda position, you should even strive to make yourself cry. You know, like even when we make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make astaghfar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as some of the scholars say that one of the prerequisites of making tawbah or asking for forgiveness is to make yourself cry, right? Because you're crying out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we say to cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't mean, you know, to cry in front of everybody to let the people see, but this is something between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're crying to the one that is in control of all things. And with regards to the tears, we must understand that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that anyone who cries out of the fear of Allah, anyone who cries out of the love of Allah, anybody who cries out of the hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those tears would extinguish the flames of the fire. Okay, so again, dua is very important. Dua is very powerful. And another thing that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said with regards to dua, it said the only thing that can change qadr, and we know that qadr is something that has been written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Even we have a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regards to qadr, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the first thing that was created was the qalam. The first thing that was created was the pen. And he told her to write. 50,000 years before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, he created the qalam. And he told her to write everything that was going to happen in existence. So therefore, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Whatever's not going to happen is not going to happen. This is part of qadr. This is a belief of iman. Part of our iman is to believe in qadr. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one thing that can change qadr, or the thing that can wrestle with qadr, is dua, right? The dua of a servant can change the qadr, right? It can change the condition. Something could be happening to a person. Something could be destined to happen to a person, but then that person makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sincerely, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change the qadr. And even though we're told that the dua can change the qadr, but we must understand that that dua is part of the qadr as well. So these are just some things to understand with regards to the ibad, with regards to the servant, that dua is very important for the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can make dua at any time. Anytime that we want, we can make dua. It's best to make the dua while we're in wudu, right? In order to be in a state of purification, to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to bow down before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's not a prerequisite of the dua, right? It's best to be in wudu, but you don't have to be in wudu. You don't have to go through the mechanics of the salat, and, you know, doing the rakat or bowing, you know, dua, you know, raising of the hands and just calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Making dua while you're in sajda. You can, you know, place your head to the ground and put your forehead to the ground and just cry out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask him for whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you desire, you know, but make sure that your dua is not for something that's haram, right? Ask for the things that are beneficial to you. Again, the best du'as, the du'as of the Quran. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. Oh Allah, give me good in this life, right? Wa fil akhirati hasana. And in the hereafter, give me good. Wa qina adhab an-nar, and save me from the punishment of the fire. Whatever du'a, you know, there's many du'as, you know. Rabbana wa'afu anna waghfir lana warhamna anta maulana fansurna ala al-qawmi al-kafirin. Oh Allah, wa'afu anna, blot out my sins, waghfir lana, forgive me, warhamna, and have mercy upon me. Anta maulana, you're my maula, you're my Lord, you're my protector. Fansurna ala al-qawmi al-kafirin, and save me from the disbelieving people. These are the best du'as. There is no du'a better than the du'as of the Quran, the du'as of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Ya muqallib al-qulub, right? O changer of the heart. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik, fortify my heart upon your deen. These are the best du'as. We don't even have to think about what it is that we need to ask or say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he tells us, he gives us the best du'as. And we recite these du'as, we believe in these du'as, we say them with conviction. And then inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will bless us with these things. There's many, many du'as. There's du'as of Umar, there's du'as of Ibn Umar. There's many, many du'as. And one of the things that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, that Allah loves consistency. Allah loves consistency. So what does that mean? It means that you take something easy, right? You don't have to learn 45,000 du'as. You don't have to learn 1,000,000 du'as. Find you specific du'as that are pleasing to you. Find you certain du'as that you love, that have an impact on you, that there's something special or specific about those du'as that you want to implement, into your life, right? And be consistent with those du'as. Learn those du'as, memorize those du'as, implement those du'as into your life. And again, understand that Allah Sami'a du'a, he's the hearer of du'a. Nothing is impossible with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is impossible with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he promises that he's qareeb, he's near. If you call out to him, he'll answer your call. If you ask him, he'll give you what it is that you ask for. But again, make sure that your food is halal, right? Your clothing is halal. Your money is halal. Make sure that you're not intertwining with the people that are doing the haram. You're enjoining the right. You're forbidding the wrong. Even if you're hating it in your heart, right? You're distancing yourself from certain things that are displeasing to Allah. You hate it in your heart. And again, Allah knows, you can't be, well, I'm a believer and I'm asking Allah for certain things, but then I'm around certain things that are haram. I'm around certain things that are displeasing to Allah, and I'm happy with that. I'm complacent with it. I'm enjoying it, and this is something that you have to check within yourself. But alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, this is just a little dhikr with regards to the dua. And again, we have a time change, so please forgive me. But again, understanding that dua is ibadah. Dua is a form of worship, right? We call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's ibadah. We don't call out to nobody else except Allah. We don't ask nobody except Allah. We don't call out nobody's name other than Allah. We don't say, Ya Muhammad, oh Muhammad, give me this, or Fulan, Fulan. We don't call out to nobody but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is part of Tawheed. He's Rabbil Alameen. He's Sami'a Dua. He's the hearer of dua. And so understand that he's the one that answers our dua. That dua is very powerful. This is the weapon of a believer. You must believe it to receive it. You can make dua at any time, in your life. You're feeling down, you're feeling remorseful, or you're feeling that there's something that you need. You just call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with whatever dua that you wish for. Call out by using his most beautiful names. Allah, another example, call out his name, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Wadud, Al-Ghafur, At-Tawwab. Call out his most beautiful names, Al-Hayyu, Al-Qayyum. Call out by his most beautiful names. This is also something that he loves. So inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with some type of benefit from this speech, from this talk. If there's any questions, inshallah, feel free to ask, inshallah.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Amazing, amazing, very beautiful examples, and you explain in very, very easy words. And welcome, Sister Hannah. Okay, so you guys have any question?
I have a question.
Yes, Sinan.
Do you get the same importance in making a dua in a fard prayer while you're in sujood as like a sunnah prayer when you're in sujood? Is it the same importance?
Yes, it's the same importance. The only difference is that if you're in the fard of the prayer, if you're praying behind someone else, you don't really have the amount of time that you would probably want for yourself to make certain dua, right? If I'm praying behind somebody in the fard of prayer, then I have a limited amount of time to ask for certain things in sajda because I'm following the imam. But if I'm in my sunnah prayer, then I'm praying by myself. So I can take my time, I can, I don't have to rush, right? I don't have to worry about the imam going fast, and then I can ask for whatever it is that I need to ask for, and I can take my time and make sure that I fully engage in my dua and not rush. But the dua in the fard or the dua in the sunnah, the dua just at any time, or just me sitting in my car, the dua is again, Allah sami' dua wherever you're making dua, right? Like Yusuf alayhi salam, he made dua while he was in the bottom of the well, you know. So the dua that you make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever heard. There's not more significance in the fard prayer or the sunnah prayer, except we say the tahajjud, right? The tahajjud prayer, which we have a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that in the last third of the night, Allah comes down to the lowest heavens. However He does it, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, we say sami'na wa ata'na, we hear when we obey. That He comes down to the lowest heavens while everyone's sleeping, and He said, those that are sleeping, but these are my ibad that are up, right? In the middle of the night, they've forsaken their bed. What is it that you asking me? Who is it that needs something from me? Who wants forgiveness? And I will answer them. So with regard to tahajjud or qiyam al-layl, may be more significance, because this is where, you know, Allah comes down the last third of the night. But with regards to a fard prayer or a sunnah prayer during the day, both have weight. With regards to the sunnah prayer, you have more time, you know, to ask for what it is that you want to ask for. You can be more sincere. You know, you're by yourself. You know, you don't have to worry about others. But the significance or the importance in both is still the same. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, indeed, you know, guys, dua is a message call that you do with Allah. Okay, so always make dua. Dua have no specific time, but obviously, as Ustad mentioned, there are some very specific time that Allah says in Tahajjud time, in especially in Juma, day of Juma after Asr, but you can make dua anytime. And dua is like a message with Allah, call with Allah, talk with Allah, okay? And even if you need list of shoes, ask to Allah, okay? So make a very good communication with Allah, because Allah lives near to your heart. So do you guys has any questions? Sihan, Malkoy, Media, Electric, Akbar, Abdullah, Zakaria, Hamna. Hello, do you have any question? Be active, please. Wake up, wake up. Amelia, where's your question?
I don't have any questions.
Then you have to say something about today's topic. What you learned today?
Do you know when you said you can ask Allah when you for any dua like that? So can we make dua after we finish every single salah?
Yes, there's specific du'as you can make after the salah. You go into the, you know, find any specific du'a. You know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, "Qul huwallahu ahad, qul a'udhu birabbil falaq." We say istighfar. You know, there's many du'as, but as I said, Allah loves consistency, right? So pick a du'a, find a du'a, or learn a du'a, you know, that someone taught you or something that you learned, and be consistent with it, right? Even with regards to after every salah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, anyone that recites ayatul kursi, right? Anyone that recites ayatul kursi after every fard salah, he said the only thing preventing him from being entered into the Jannah is maut, is death. So we have another example. After every salah, recite ayatul kursi, right? And just be consistent with it. Something simple, you know, astaghfirullah, 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 you know what I'm saying? Astaghfirullah 3 times. Something simple, whatever it may be, and be consistent with it, inshallah.
MashaAllah. Yes, Ahwar. Ahwar. Ahwal. Yes, ask question. Open your mic.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, when does we make du'as, but when does it get accepted?
Okay. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when they call out to me, let them know that I am Qareeb, right? I am Samia Dua. I am the hearer of Dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answer your Dua quickly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can delay your Dua, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about the person who makes a Dua, right? And yet they're patient with that Dua. They don't complain about the Dua, right? But Rasulullah sallallahu he warned about the person that makes Dua, and then they say, I made dua, but Allah didn't answer my dua. Why didn't Allah answer my dua? Sometimes Allah will postpone what it is that you're asking for and give it to you in the Jannah. He might postpone it to protect you from certain things, right? Like to say, maybe it's not on your time, but it's on time. Just like in the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, from the time that Yusuf alayhi salam had his dream, right? Yusuf alayhi salam had a dream, and then until the dream came manifested, it took 40 years. It took 40 years for the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam that Allah showed him a dream, and then for it to come into existence, it took 40 years. So we can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we don't know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer that dua. It could be quickly, it could take a long time, it could take days, right? Allahu alam. But the thing is, what Rasulullah said, don't become impatient with your dua. Don't become impatient. Even though he said he's qareeb, yes, he's qareeb. Even in what Rasulullah sallallahu and the ayah said, oh Allah, when will the help of Allah come? When will the nasr of Allah come? Right? Even with our brothers and sisters in Philistine, when will the nasr of Allah come? Right? It's going to be on Allah's time, at the right time, at the perfect time. Allah, in his infinite wisdom, he knows what he's doing and he knows what's best for us. So he loves when the servant cries out to him. He loves when the servant makes dua. He loves when the servant cries to him. So understand that we don't know when he'll answer the dua. We don't know how long it will take, but we understand that we shouldn't be impatient with it. Don't be impatient with the dua. Keep making dua and keep doing the things that will make you qualified and worthy of him accepting your dua. So when you make your dua, increase in good deeds as well. Do the things that are pleasing to Allah so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can answer your dua, inshallah.
Yes. So make dua with patience because Allah with those who show patience. And as Ustad told, consistency is very, very important. It doesn't mean you just ask to Allah for one time and then you say, Allah, give me a waiting. No, ask, okay? Maybe Allah give you within a year, within day, within second, within whole life. But this is the Allah says, if I will not accept your dua in word, I will give you best rewards in Jannah. So as dua is a ibadah. It's not compulsory you ask dua in Arabic. You can ask dua in any language. Okay. So dua, make dua when you drive, when you walk, when you play, when you do anything, you can ask to Allah. You can talk to Allah. Okay. So today we have a very, very special guest, Sister Hamna. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good morning.
How is everyone?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so sister, this is our class, and every Thursday we do Islamic studies class, and Ustadh Abdulwalee will be sent give lecture, and then the brilliant students, my favorite, amazing students, ask a lot of questions. So we do this. So
Alhamdulillah.
now, if you have any question, you can ask to Ustadh. Otherwise, would you like to share your story?
Okay, I hadn't planned on doing it today, but I can share my story.
Okay, so guys, Sister Hamna will share the story how she reverted into Islam, how she accepted Islam. So, sister, we have 10 minutes, so you can explain, and everyone must take interest, okay? Because obviously this story will inspire you, okay? Because you don't know actually how the beauty of Islam, because you're born by Muslim. Okay, so but Sister Hamna realized, Ustad Abdulwalee realized why Islam is important, right? Okay, Sister Hamna, you start.
Okay, so I wasn't born, well, I was born Muslim, of course, we all are. And but I was raised in a Christian home, and I searched for a long time, wondering that Christianity didn't make sense to me. Like, okay, so if Jesus in Christianity, Jesus is considered God's son, right? And so I had never been exposed to Islam before. And so I think to myself, I was like, well, if Jesus is God's son, then who is Adam? Didn't Allah create Adam first? And why isn't he considered God's son? So, I thought these things as a child, as I was young. And so as I grew up, I was exposed a little bit to like, the stories of like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, things like that. But I really didn't know what Islam was. And so when I was a little bit older, I got married. I married a Muslim man, but he really didn't tell me anything about it. I was super young. I was like, had just turned 18. Um, and so, this is in no way in disrespect to him, but I didn't know what Islam was for a few years or what it represented, anything like that. And I had had two children, and I had two young children, and I felt really sad inside, and I didn't understand, where this sadness was coming from. I felt empty, and it was like I've got this beautiful little baby girl with me, and I have a young son, and I'm at home with them right now and taking care of them, but I was really sad. And one day I sat outside, and we lived in some apartments, and there was this humongous oak tree that had grown out of the pavement. And I thought to myself, how in the world, because we lived in the city, it's like, how in the world did that tree just grow in the crack of the pavement, this humongous tree? And I started thinking about God. And I was really moved by that. For some reason, that tree that had busted through the pavement, that was humongous, got my wheels turning. And I was like, I had a grandmother who was very into her church. I was like, I've got to call her and see if I can go to church with her, because I just had that calling. And so it ended up where my husband at the time, he came home and he said, we're going to put Ali in the Islamic school here. And I was kind of upset about that. I was like, I don't even know what, Islam is. And, like I just told you, I wanted to go to church with my grandmother. And all of a sudden now here you're talking about Islam. And I cried myself to sleep that night, because I felt like, like here I am trying to search for God, and somebody's kind of trying to switch, right? But I didn't understand what Islam was about. So he went to work, and he worked out of town sometimes. And so I grabbed the kids and I went to the masjid. And he had told me, don't go, because, like, don't go up to the masjid because, I wasn't covered. Maybe, I don't know. He just said, don't. But I was like, I'm not just going to put my kids somewhere and I don't know, what this Islam is about. So I went up there, and it just happened to be that there was a class that was being given to a high school about Islam. And so I sat in the back, and the brother who was giving the speech said something that it was like, oh my God, it was like this awakening. And nobody had ever put this to me like this before. You know, they're like, there's a hereafter, like, so anyway, he says, what are you living for? Are you living for the few years in this life, or are you living for the hereafter? And I feel like somebody had picked up a brick and hit me upside the head. And I was like, what? Oh my God, what am I doing? Right? So there I was sitting with my little baby, my little 4-month-old on my knee, and my little 2-year-old next to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so it happened to be Jummah, and it didn't just happen to be Jummah. You know, Allah is the best of planners. He's the ultimate plot twister, correct? But I didn't know what Jummah was. And I heard the adhan go off, and I was like, what is that? That is beautiful. So the sister, who was American, she had reverted to Islam. She said, I said, can I go watch people pray? I've never seen Muslims pray before. And she was like, sure. And she walked me over to the women's side, and the adhan was still going off, and I just started crying. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard in my life. And I cried and cried and cried the whole entire khutbah prayer. I went home that night, and I knew that there was an internal change. I couldn't explain it. I felt something inside of me that I had never felt before, and I probably cried for 5 or 6 hours straight. And I felt like those tears, I mean, this is just the way I was feeling. I can't say this is what was happening. I'm just telling you what I was feeling. I felt like those tears that I was crying were like tears of, like they were my sins that were just pouring out of me. You know, that's just my feeling. And the feeling inside, like I can feel it like it was yesterday. And I just knew. I knew that Islam was my destiny. But how was I going to tell my husband, who told me, don't go to the masjid? You know, so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So anyway, I remember I went to the bedroom and I had put the children to bed because it was late by this time. And I remember I screamed into my pillow, like these tears, and it wasn't crying, it was sobbing. It was that ugly cry, you know? And for the first time in my life, I acknowledged Allah to be up in heaven. And out of nowhere, I flung my arms up into the air and I screamed, if you show me the right way, I'll follow you. And so I had gotten a book at the masjid by Ghulam Shawar, and it's like an Islam 101 book. It's beautiful. I'll try to give that book out to our Ghulam Sarwar is the name. And I try to give that book to new Muslims to this day. May Allah reward the woman that gave me that book. And so I studied that book. And for 4 months, I studied every day. I learned how to pray in Arabic. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't making this rash decision here. I had this, you know, this Muslim man, what I was going to say, hey, I want to become Muslim, right? And he's going to look at me and go, yeah, right. You know, and so for months I studied and he didn't know. And one day I just knew. I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't become Muslim, I'm going to just like, if he doesn't give me my shahada, because I was told somebody had to give it to me. I was like, I'm going to find somebody who will give it to me. So when he came home, I looked at him and I said, I want to become Muslim. And he kind of stood there with his mouth open. And I said, he was like, basically, it was kind of like, well, what do you know about it? I was like, well, I've been practicing, like, and you didn't know. And I repeated the prayer in Arabic. I had learned it and started telling him all the things that I heard. And however, he didn't know, you know, he didn't know how to give me shahada. So he called his baba, his father, and his father gave me shahada. And he looked at me and he was like, are you going to put the hijab on? And I was sitting here thinking, you know, hijab was the farthest thing from my mind, because in my heart, I'm thinking I'm trying to save my soul from the hellfire, right? But I want you to know, I went and I made like ghusl, like ritual, you know, the big prayer that you make when you take shahada. And I put that hijab on and I've never taken it off. And that's my story.
MashaAllah. Superb, superb, superb. Subhanallah. You know, the azan is a miracle indeed. So, guys, you heard how Sister Hamna reverted Islam. Do you have any question? Do you want to say anything, any feedback, and do you want to share your feelings, like how much you are
Yes, too. Also,
motivation? Please
I've
say
been
something.
Muslim. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
Muslim.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I guess I'm having some feedback problems. I apologize. I've been Muslim for 25 years now. So I wanted to add this because it helps, if people understand that it wasn't just it was a life commitment. Anyway, thank you.
Hmm. And now, mashallah, Sister Hamna learning Holy Quran. Subhanallah. And she is writing Holy Quran as well. That's more amazing thing. Subhanallah. So, Jinan, Sikhan, Ahwar, Media, Malfoy, Latre, Abdullah, Zakaria, don't you want to say anything? Do you listen? Please say something.
It was a
Guys,
very
wake up. Yes,
interesting.
Jinan.
That was a nice story.
Thank you. It was a miracle. I mean, if you think about it, like there I was thinking
Mhm.
about God, about Allah, and searching, and that opportunity presented itself. I was told to not do something, and
Mhm.
instinctually he put inside of me, no, you know,
Mhm.
because nothing happens by coincidence. Everything, he allows things to happen, and he put that drive inside of me to search, to go, no, a human being is not going to tell me that I can't go searching for Allah, or I can't, figure out, you know, um, to be told that what is the word I'm looking for?
Hmm.
That natural inclination to want to know, because if I hadn't, he's the best of planners, of course, but I did what I was told not to because it was in my heart to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, obviously. Obviously, yeah, it makes sense. Sihan, what do you want to say? Sihan. Sihan. Ahwar, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to ask that if there's any like specific surah that touched your heart or something.
Wow, mashallah, so nice.
Mashallah, no, darling. It was actually just, I didn't even know what the adhan was saying, right? I had no idea. That's the huge miracle of it, is that the tears just came because of the beauty of the call of Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. I had no idea what that meant. And it took, me to getting that little red book and learning. So it was no surah. It was that call. Allah was calling me that day through that brother that gave that
Mashallah.
adhan.
Yes, Allah is calling you indeed. Yeah,
When you
through
hear
the
that,
heart.
when you hear the adhan,
Hmm.
guys, when you hear that adhan, come to prayer, come to success. It's not just a call. If you're hearing it, Allah is talking to you. Come, like you, when you look at it from that point of view, because he doesn't choose, he's the one that chooses, right? So if you hear it, if you get the opportunity to learn Quran from Brother Omar, I mean, y'all are so blessed, because look how old I am now. And I'm just now learning. I started learning a few years ago, and it has been my dream since I became Muslim. I had bought books. I had, tried to learn. I could not learn that Arabic alphabet. And I started learning how to read not even 3 years ago. I learned my alphabet, and now I am, I'm reading, mashallah, and it's the most beautiful thing in the whole world, because he chooses. Not everybody. I mean, you can be Arab and you can speak Arabic and you could read Arabic, but that doesn't mean that you can read Quran, that you can read Tajweed, that you'll have Tarkil, right? So, it really is a blessing, right? So
Mashallah.
take advantage of it. Brother Omar, who's teaching you the Arabic, I mean, he is your biggest. I don't even have the words to say it. I made dua for him. I'm going to tell you this. I knew that I needed help, more help than what I was getting. And I put my head on the floor in tahajjud and I said, Allah, I was like, guide me to the people that guide me to you. I know that you know that I need more help right now. And there he was. There he was
Mashallah.
literally within a day.
Yes,
MashaAllah.
and yes, and through Sister Gina, yeah. As you told me, you was in my class 3 years ago, I think so, for just one day, and then
I
look,
took just one, right. I just took one and it was 3 years ago and I couldn't read yet. I was just learning the
listen,
alphabet. And so when I got in
yeah,
his class and I couldn't read yet, I was like, this is too advanced for me. So I didn't, but I didn't take another class, only took that one. But I remembered him. And so when I made the dua, I remembered, I remembered you. And so I asked Sister Gina, I was like, do you still talk to Brother Umar? And she said, yes. And I said, would you ask him if he mind giving me his number? And that was it. And he quickly said yes. So
Alhamdulillah.
yes. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Keep this teacher in your prayers.
Ameen. So
He's
nice.
guiding you to heaven. He's guiding you to Jannah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so guys, mashallah, how was your class? Uh, I think so. This is the one of best class, mashallah. It's really, really motivation for me, and I learned a lot of things today. So now, last 2 minutes. So everyone, hurry up. Tell me the topics for next classes. Ahwar, I wanna start from you.
Yes.
Tell me the topics of next classes. Ustad Abdulwalee will send. I will send you these topics, okay? And then we'll do in next classes. Yes, Ahwar.
I came up with ideas. The first one is fiqh.
Okay.
The second one is the importance of the tajweed.
Okay.
The third one is adab, and it can be of anything. It could be like adab of parents, adab of teachers, adab of visiting the sick.
Very important. Visiting the sick. Ahwar is sick, so please everyone ask to Ahwar. How are you, Ahwar?
Hi, Ahwar.
Okay. Next, Ahwar.
Also, the miracles of the Quran.
Okay, great. So Abdullah, you tell me, please.
A topic about all the prophets.
Prophets. Okay. Zakaria, you tell me.
Yes.
Tell me, please. Any topic.
Have a topic about the Bible. Like why
Bible.
we don't listen to the Bible.
Okay. Sister Hamnat, you want to suggest any topic that you think it's good for kids?
That's good for kids. Well, of course, learning the stories of the prophets are incredibly important because when you read the stories, it's almost like you're reading a fairy tale, right? Because there's all these miracles, but these things actually happened. That and so I think it's really important to teach the children about those stories, because for me they awakened, that miracles happen, that Allah is really there, that he,
Uh,
it's one thing to go, okay, Allah is there, but it's another thing to know, to fully believe, and those stories really helped me with that.
Okay, got it. So, Ustad Abdulwalee Robinson, what we do, we start the prophet stories from next class. Okay, in every class we discuss the story of one prophet like Hazrat Musa. Obviously, it's a long stories and have a lot of things that we need to discuss. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hazrat Musa, Hazrat Ismail, and okay, you tell me the prophets' names that you wanna discuss. You send me, and then inshallah ta'ala we will discuss the story of each prophet in every class, inshallah ta'ala. How's this idea, Ustad Abdulwalee Robinson?
Inshallah.
Okay,
Yes.
so thank you so much everyone for joining us, and may Allah bless you and give you best rewards. Thank you so much, Ustad Abdulwalee Robinson. May Allah give you best rewards. It's 2 a.m. and you're still waiting for us, and it's
Yes.
an amazing thing. I really appreciate you. Everyone appreciate you. So thank you so
Alhamdulillah.
much. And Sister Hamna, thank you so much for joining and discuss your story. It's really amazing thing. So